I gotta say, today is most certainly a good day because we have a most conspicuous, fantastic, unbelievable individual joining me. Casual, mate, how's it going?
Why you got to give me an intro like that? I can never live up to that, but thank you. Hello,
Oh,
welcome. It's really, really nice to be here with you once again. And might I just say, two teams about to face off that will match certainly the duo that we have in you and me as well. Two really fantastic teams. Bit of an in-house as well, Quicksand too. It's MCOM v MCOM tonight, which is very, very exciting for the viewers at home.
oh wow, okay. And Casual, have you gotten any familiarity with these teams? Have you talked to them at all? Do you know any of the players? You can kind of key us in maybe what their favorite movie is. What?
Big time,
Oh
yeah.
wow, well, okay, okay.
Yeah, no,
Please,
big time,
please,
big
please, spill
time.
the tea, man.
Look, I can't speak so much on their interest in movies or what they enjoy, but what I can do is I've actually been scrimming a lot with the not the Jade Dragons, the Starcasters, pardon me, who have needed a few fills. So I've actually come in and played with those guys. So a real gold class ticket into seeing what they're all about. I'd like to say that I performed well. I didn't really, but I know these guys anyway. Tempest obviously is one of the strongest junglers in the tournament, if not the strongest. They've got, a mid laner who everyone talks about, Easy Life, who's super aggressive, super aggro. The main point I actually want to talk about Starcasters, even though they have so many strong players, is their support. Or might I say their new support, Quicksand, in Redimus. Some people may know Red from the multiple different Iron to Plat teams he has played on, usually as a jungle main. So he's actually, in the last few days, really, not even a week, has role swapped straight to jungle in the middle of a tournament as well. I think is an incredibly bold move, but already is actually showing up and performing really, really well on the role. Now, whether that's credit to Red or credit to the support role, maybe not being the most difficult role in the game, I mean, time will tell, but it is really difficult regardless to completely change your pattern of thinking. So eyes for me are definitely on Starcaster's support, as he will be very much in a sort of new breadth of experience now. This will be his first comp game as a support, full stop. And this guy's been around in the
Oh
scene
wow.
forever. So really, really excited for that. But then to transition over, Jade Dragons are a really, really strong team too. And both of these teams who we're talking about in the standings are equal right now. So at 1 win and 1 loss, I think the only point that people should consider when betting their channel points tonight is that Jade Dragons actually lost 1 game to VSP Evo. So Starcasters last week versus Weekend Warriors, and they got 2-0'd. That's the one part of my predictions that I'm very angry about, because I expected it to go to 3 games. It didn't. They got 2-0'd. But Jade Dragons actually got a game taken off them by VSB Evolutions, who weren't actually looking that good, especially in that week 1 performance. So whether that shows some shakiness in their roster, I'm not too sure. But Starcasters will be absolutely begging for a win after their week 2 performance, which let a lot of the viewers at home down.
But I think you pointing out as well, having a switch to the support role may be a thorn in their side, because a very talented player may certainly be able to do so. But at the same time, bot lane has been the focus of all competitive play for probably the last couple of months. As long as I can remember in the past, the time I started playing ADC, it's been the strongest role. And we've just recently seen Jinx swoop into the meta and knock players like Varus, who was somewhat being picked, out of the park. And now I just recently checked the pick rates, especially around that Platinum Elo, and Jinx is by far the most picked champion with a 30%
at the top
pick rate.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
No, Jinx will be right up there. And interestingly, in the patch that came out this morning, Jinx wasn't touched at all. Riot Games were like, nah, seems balanced, and they haven't even touched her. So we can imagine that AD carries like Jinx or Jinx herself will definitely be high priority for both of these teams. Both AD carries play Jinx quite heavily. The only reason Worgen, known for his Draven, doesn't really end up picking Draven so much is because there are champions like Jinx that you would probably rather pick. Your team would rather you pick as well. So we'll probably see similar things being matched in the bot lane, I think, especially when you're role swapping as well. You instantly have to sort of learn what's meta and start there to learn. There's no point learning Xerath support to find out that it's absolute shit and that you're just trolling your team, right? So we can imagine some really similar ideologies when it comes to the meta. But as we are very, very close into jumping into draft, I want to touch on a few players from Jade Dragons. Mainly, I want to talk about their jungler right now and also their top lane too. So their top lane, Hemophiliac, is also, interestingly, kind of role swapped. Not really. He has been playing top lane for Jade Dragons so far in this split, Quicksand, but he used to be a support player as well. So some interesting things going on dynamically between both of these teams. But back to their jungler as well, the Viego one trick, as some people have been calling them, them. People are terrified of this pick, absolutely terrified. So huge eyes on Daenerys if he actually does end up getting the Viego, but has a lot of sort of outside options. What I find really interesting about this player is usually strong side junglers or strong side mid laners or whatever role you're in, you match your champ pool to what you're really good at. So if he's really good at Viego, then he'll probably really be good at Graves, at Diana, at things that want to invade, fight early, skirmish heavily, right? But when Viego's taken Quicksand, he kind of opts more for the tanks and the utility. So in StarCasters draft prep, they've got to consider that Jade Dragons might completely flip the script, if you will, depending on what they're actually able to pick in this first phase. So as we're very, very close to jumping into draft, that's the one thing I would be keeping my eyes on. But overall, these teams are matched toe-to-toe, really. So it should be a really exciting game, and that's why I predicted 3 games. Fingers crossed.
It's really important to look towards the jungle as well, because I'd say besides the bot lane, jungle is having the biggest influence. We've seen champions like Vi and Sejuani pretty much rule the Rift for maybe the past 1 or 2 months, but in the recent patches, Sejuani has pretty much plummeted down the pick rate, especially around this elo, even in competitive play. Vi somehow still staying up there, but we're seeing a champion, especially like J4 and Kane, Lee Sin as well. Those are the top 3 picks in the Platinum elo. So none of the 2 that were pretty much reigning supreme for the past couple of months. But I know there was also a patch that came out for J4. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so the patch for J4 is obviously a nerf. I think no one would be surprised to hear that it was indeed a nerf to Jarvan. Though it's nothing incremental, and this is what a lot of people have sort of been commenting on Quicksand, is that champions have been nerfed, sure, on this patch, but not to the extent that the meta's actually going to shift all that much. Like, Malphite was obviously targeted, Jarvan alongside with him as well. Both of these champions still can be picked, so it's not so much a situation of like the previous Aatrox patch, right? Where he ran absolutely rampant at Worlds, they nerfed him to the absolute ground, and now no one will pick it ever again. Jarvan Malphite still absolutely can be taken. I think due to the fact that Jinx is so strong, picks, especially like Jarvan and Malphite, are so strong because they're targeting a mobile ADCs. That's their whole niche, is what they can target as a mobile ADCs. And what is Jinx and a mobile ADC, right? Even though I did mention Aatrox as well as we jump into the ban phase, and I'll ask you to break that down for us as we slide on in. Cletus is probably the only person, there it is, who plays Aatrox. So even though I think Aatrox is shit, this guy does not. He loves it. So Jade Dragons, with a respect ban, they're taking out the Lissandra and the Aatrox in the first phase.
Cho'Gath being taken out as well, and you casual as a top lane player probably have a bit of trauma playing up against Cho'Gath. They're not the strongest player, certainly running around as a chomper, and as an ADC player myself, I hate the guy. Draven coming out, as you mentioned, a special to pick for some of our ADCs, and Wukong, a jungler who's been fairly strong in the meta, somewhat floating in and out right now. Sejuani getting banned out is really interesting to me. I mean, you said you played in some scrims around with both of these guys, but seeing Sejuani being banned out, especially after having such a low pick rate, is quite surprising to me.
Yeah, and what's also really surprising for me right now is that Jade Dragons haven't opted just for the Viego first pick. They've actually chosen to take Daenerys' other jungler away in the Sejuani. And so as Viego was open, what that tells me when they ban Sejuani Quicksand is that they clearly have an answer to Viego. So if Jade Dragons are able to read that, they might be like, okay, maybe not, maybe we're not going to opt for it instead. But they have the option on red side to take a really, really strong 2v2. I won't be necessarily surprised to see a Jinx here. I have seen Red play the Lulu as well. He is proficient on it. Not that it's incredibly difficult to play Lulu, but you know, he does his job really, really well and can facilitate a really, really strong pick like the Jinx. See, there you go. And then the opposite side with Milio. What do you think they might pair with Milio?
Well,
look, maybe.
Milio is the guy you play with Jinx as well. First picking Milio is a fair bit of a risk, especially seeing as Jinx is the champ that everyone wants to get their hands on. Wow. Kog'Maw being locked in to be paired with Milio. Now, Milio's probably most dangerous aspect you need to watch out, besides being the reincarnation of Messi, is probably that he can increase your range. It's disgusting. And on a champion like Jinx, bro, with the rocket launcher, boom, 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 dude, I'm hitting people from downtown. But Kog'Maw, on the other hand, I'd say I don't play enough to be familiar with, but maybe you've run into it enough casual to be able to explain a little bit why this pairing might work.
I think the pairing's going to work because they both have the ability to increase their attack range. So Kog'Maw, obviously, with his W, with the artillery shooter, is able to get onto targets and stay at a relatively self-range, and all Milio is going to do is boost that. So I think what's really, what they're going to need to look out for in this 2v2 is finding their right window to engage. So how a lot of high elo players see the Kog'Maw and why Kog'Maw isn't so easily picked is that he has a really clear pattern of when he wants to fight. And that's when his W's up. When his W is down, he is literally not a champion. So hopefully Starcasters are able to read that if they do want to win and strong side their bot lane, which it seems like they might, given that we have actually taken up the Jarvan 4 as well for Tempest. They need to be careful about when they choose to engage, because if those abilities are up for this Milio and Kog'Maw, they are a very, very deadly lane and may halter that sort of scaling that they're looking towards with the Jinx pick.
And now we've just seen Jarvan and Gragas both being locked in. And Gragas, look, he has the opportunity to be played in the top and jungle, even mid lane, if you're trying to flex him really, really hard. Yone coming out, meaning there's not expecting a mid lane pick here at all. But in the top lane, I think is another really important thing to discuss, because Malphite has been off the chain recently. Every single game I'm playing, when I perma-lock in Jinx, he just jumps in on me. So,
he's there.
Okay, we're getting Ivan hovered here as well. Okay, I was going to say.
Got a bit excited.
Seeing Malphite probably come up in the draft here, especially after not being banned out, might be matched with a champion like Sion, who has pretty much just, I've lost every single ranked game to the point where I just switch to top lane and play Sion because he drives me so crazy.
If you can't beat him, join him, Quicksand. I think that's a fantastic strategy. But I like what Starcasters are thinking here in the draft. So actually splitting their bans in the second phase, going for top and mid, but just because they don't know where that Gragas is going. If Sion is indeed locked in, then we can assume that that Gragas will be towards the jungle. It's something that Kasumi doesn't really play in the mid lane, so I think they'd be putting him off comfort. And anyone who's been listening to my bullshit rants and opinions on Irons of Plat would know that I think comfort prevails over anything else. Anything else at all. It is always, always, always comfort. So, makes sense that they're going to hover their mid laner here. Now, they actually get the counter pick, which is really nice on blue side. You won't see often for blue side that they're able to counter pick one of their solo lanes. So, they get what he thinks is a decent matchup into Syndra. I kind of beg to differ. I think that's pretty Syndra hard winning. However, if he is able to scale, it's going to be a real issue, because that Cataclysm coming out from Jarvan 4 pretty much just locks everyone into being hit by that Hemo Plague, right? So Tempest might accidentally have countered his own team with that Vladimir pick, but Gwen's going to be the answer into Sion. Quicksand, what do you think about that matchup?
Wow, dude, I haven't seen Gwen in the longest time being played in a new environment. Being matched up against a Sion who basically just becomes the unkillable Demon King. When he gets to scale, man, he is disgusting. As you mentioned, though, that J4 really is going to put this team into a bit of disarray. Vladimir has the ability to get away as well, but Kog'Maw, on the other hand, might be a little bit in trouble. The Gwen-Sion matchup, I can't speak too much on it, but seeing a Syndra come out as well, the ability to push back waves, and as a control mage, I mean, I think Syndra actually brings a lot of really important utility to the team to keep Sion and Gragas both off the backline, and Gwen too.
Yeah, no, I really like that you mentioned waves, actually. I think the wave clear is definitely on the side of Starcasters this game, and time will tell once we get in game whether that's actually all that prevalent, but I think Jade Dragons will need to recognize their win con, and that's not pushing waves, and they can't really siege outside of Kog'Maw, and yeah, it is really strong to siege with the Milio as well. It's almost why you pick it. They'll probably be looking for a 4-1 split with the Sion, depending on how top lane goes, so I wouldn't be overall necessarily surprised if Starcasters actually avoid the bot lane. I know it sounds crazy that a jungle wouldn't gank bot lane, but if you can get Gwen ahead in this lane and actually give her prior early, because I don't think she secures that 1v1 necessarily by herself. Like, Gwen is a good pick, Quicksand, don't get me wrong, but it absolutely is not as strong as it used to be level 1. I think people remember the days where Lethal Tempo had just come out with Gwen, and you'd literally get a guaranteed first blood every single time if you found someone with your E in the bush. Like, Gwen's would be playing like the most psycho people you've ever met because of how strong she is, but she's had to sort of rotate herself out of that play style now, and she actually wants to weak side and scale up. And Sion, as you mentioned, is an insane scaling tank as well, arguably one of the best scaling tanks, because he never stops scaling with his passive. So we'll see. I imagine that there'll probably be some aggression towards the top side, and then they'll chill out, but it really is eyes on both of these junglers as well, and how proactive they are, and what objectives they want to go for, if they want to go for Herald, if they want to go for Dragons, because they can really do everything. I think both Jade Dragons and Starcasters have multiple different win cons in both their bot and mid. It's going to be really harder if either of those lanes scale. So far, though, 5v5, how are you sort of predicting this game one? Who do you reckon is going to take it out here, Quicksand?
Again, I think it's really important to point out to anyone in the audience who might be unsure what Sion's passive is, that every time he kills a minion, he gains permanent health. And I think for anything larger, like objectives and things like that, he gets to gain slightly more health too. But 5v5, look, stepping back, to me, the Jinx being paired with the J4 means that she has significantly less chance of being like jumped upon by maybe even the Scion or the Cogmore, someone trying to just worm their way into the back line. And Jinx, she has the highest pick rate in Platinum for a reason. Right now, I am leaning towards the side of the Starcasters just because it feels like their composition is more well laid out. But then again, Jarvan is the only character who really can take a lot of damage, and there will be a lot being dished out here, especially with Vladimir making everyone on the opposite team more vulnerable. It's a bit questionable to not have a tank in this matchup. I mean, so for this game, as someone who doesn't know the teams as well as you do, I'm going to give to Starcasters. But maybe just before we jump into the game, Casual, would you like to give us your short prediction?
Yeah, well, look, I'm going to try and follow my script here. I'm just having a look next to me. Yep, there it is. Raisy's handwriting is terrible this week. I don't know what he did. It's really hard to see who wins. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe. Maybe he should be great at his signatures because it just looks like scribbling the entire time. No, it says on the script here that it's actually going to be game 1 to Starcasters. Yep. So I do agree with you. Starcasters will take out this game 1. But only time will tell, right? So let's jump off to a break, get ourselves a drink of water. You chat, get yourselves a drink of water, get yourself some channel points to num and bet on this game. And we'll see you right after, right? Quicksand, after the break, we'll be jumping straight onto the Rift.
Welcome to the first game of the Iron to Plat MCOM tournament tonight. We have Starcasters facing up against the Jade Dragons. Indeed. And I also just got a new pair of pants in the mail today. I'm going to share that with everybody. But tonight we're going to have to find out who gets to wear the big boy pants. And according to both me and Casual's predictions, it may be going in the favor of Starcasters, but it really could go either way. We were just in the middle of breaking down how we felt about both the 5v5 compositions, but as bot lane now really is the strongest lane to look towards, again, we broke down how each of the individual duos go, but when they're matching up and playing against each other, could you give us a brief recap of what you're talking about in draft?
Yeah, so I feel like this game, they both have win cons that they could play towards Quicksand, but they do vary depending on the stage in the game. So I think there are outscaling potentials both in mid and top for Starcasters. However, they are vulnerable early. So that's a win con that Jade Dragons can play for to try and provide pressure with the Gragas. Though what's curious to me, and what I've just realized that's going to stop my point, is Gragas has actually opted for the Aftershock in the jungle. So he really does just go full out on utility, doesn't he, if he's not on Viego? I feel like you could probably afford to play a bit more aggressive with maybe the Phase Rush. The Dark Harvest is usually the go-to for jungle because you are on the map earlier. Tells me that he kind of wants his lanes to more survive than he does actually want to kill anyone. Why I think that's a bit of a scary choice for Jade Dragons is because I think the 5v5 is so much easier to play out. Jade Dragons kind of want to flank with their Gragas and kick towards the backline, but Starcasters have a really easy front-to-back style that they can just play towards, right? And we're already seeing this sort of pan out in the early laning phase like we talked about with that Cogmore W, right? Just really easy HP trades they can actually take due to the Milio and the synergy that she has. So we'll probably be seeing more devastation from our lovely little Pogmore as we go along. But so far, so good for both junglers. The only thing to note is that Gragas has actually opted for more of a full clear, with Tempest actually skipping his Krugs to head straight down into the bot lane and look to try and pressure towards, as they might actually end up facing each other right now.
They get to wave at each other here in the jungle now. Daenerys doesn't want to back off. He now has Kasumi coming down a match. But again, having easy life on your back foot, that's the start and sign of a control mage. Being able to shut down Daenerys that early and just push him away means that Tempest might be able to pick up the kill here. Daenerys does get the heal, goes down instead, but Kasumi is going to get the pick up as well. Now they have Rekri here to back it up. Easy life, maybe forced to flash over the wall, but opts not to now that he's Redimus on his side. Gonna flash away, and there we go. That push away means he has to stay in the game, but Redimus being forced out of wave here. Oh, sorry, Rekri did match as well, so the bot lane is still quite relaxed.
Yeah, interesting play there. The one thing that went wrong for Starcasters, despite them, yes, getting that first blood, was the fact that Tempest actually lost vision in that brush next to the Raptor Pit. Meant that final auto onto Gragas he couldn't actually secure. So then when Gragas landed his body slam, he had Aftershock to keep himself alive, plus his passive gaining himself more HP. So he actually doesn't fall. And if he did fall, that would have meant that Jarvan would have been able to live. So really, really unlucky for Starcasters. You can't really sort of predict those sort of things in game. You kind of just hope that they don't happen. Regardless, they're not too phased, right? they get a kill onto their jungler who wants to be on the map a lot more than, say, the Vladimir does, who wants to be staying in lane. So while one could argue that, yes, the carry did end up getting something from that kill in the Vladimir, and yes, it does sit nice, the fact that that's not really going to change early tempo because of the nature of the champions should mean that STARCASTERS can continue to be in the driving seat. But good to see that these junglers aren't scared of each other, Quicksand, and if they do face each other, they're going to buck on.
And that's right. Look, I was learning a little bit more about bushes, and it's fairly common knowledge, but I think it's fair enough to reinstate the fact that when you're in a bush, if you auto-attack or perform any action, you will suddenly become visible. But if you step out of a bush, attack, and then step into a bush, you will still be invisible as you step in, which makes a really great trading strategy if you have control of lane, especially in the bot lane, where if you're Jinx, you stand in the bush, you step out, fire a rocket, and step back in. But as you mentioned, that also happens in cases where someone might be able to skedaddle off into a bush while being chased, meaning the vision gets cut off. So we might be able to see that come through in the bot lane, but an important gameplay strategy to know as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think vision's such an important stat. I think a lot of people don't even consider it a stat in League, but I think it absolutely is. Your ability to control vision is so important. Because it can really spell disaster, or it can make something really, really easy. And you even think about that in minute ways, like you were talking about, with playing around vision in lane and making sure you guarantee, you know, positive HB trades and advantages sort of in a minute way. But then in bigger ways like that, you can see you can actually drop kills, you can die, and this can cause later on in the game, as death timers become longer, really, really big issues. So you'd hope that you get priority in your bot lane, so your support's actually able to move around the map and secure that all-important vision. So far, though, STARCASTERS are happy to concede their pressure and just gain this slight CS advantage they've been able to accrue for themselves, which is fine. I mean, it's good to have that lead. So far, I would say that there's nothing crazy going on there. They are looking pretty even. Sion doing a decent job of keeping himself alive, but we're just seeing slight laning advantages all across the board for STARCASTERS. Hence why there's that cheeky little gold lead outside of it being 1-to-1 in kills. Just the fact that they've been able to sort of outplay their opponents in this early phase of the game means that they can just slowly get themselves into a position where they may be able to contest their early objectives. But as Gwen makes her way down towards the river, just wants to secure prio, really good to see that Cletus actually has the knowledge that you're actually using something with your priority. So in Iron to Plat, we don't see it often, especially from solo laners, that you don't need to constantly be in lane Quicksand. Like, you can often be kind of moving around the map and making sure you're back in time for your wave, but it just gives you that little bit of pressure, right? It's like fogging out of war. So Cletus showing this experience there as he takes a nasty trap to that side. This is what I mean early game. Yes, it's a counter pick, but not always. Oh, hold on, all in.
Wow, Cletus wants to commit to this one. The needlework comes out, and it's soaring straight through that Sion. The respawn's going to come through, but he can't chase down Cletus fast enough. We now get a switch over here to the bot lane, where our Pogmore is trying to shut down this Jinx. She has her range, has her distance. Gets the root down here on Emilio, who's pretty much walked straight into it. Referee wants to get away, but he's barely just on his heels. Referee, now he's going to be forced inside the bush. The vision there dropped down. As we were talking about earlier, Tempest has support under lock. And now the jungler here to back them up. It's still a 2v3 right now. Jinx maybe on low health, but she has that range to keep the advantage. And Tempest looks like he doesn't want to commit to this any further, especially with Daenerys here to deter any kill pressure on the Kog'Maw.
Yeah, no, not today. So really, really interesting what happened top lane is Sion actually won the early trade, but just didn't expect the all-in coming out from Cletus, and he just pulled the trigger so fast that there was not much he could do from that point. And then rotating down to the bot lane play, I think it was just a slight overextension from Referee and Worgen, who were doing really well in their 2v2, actually out-trading their opponents, but overstaying without vision of the jungler is pretty much just asking for death, right? And so they do end up falling. The only thing going for them is that they kind of screws up Tempest's tempo. He can't get... Oh, hold on.
Wow.
Have they overstayed again?
Jungler left lane, and it looks like Worgen wants to make a move here. Having that Milio range increase is so useful, but J4 was there to deter the gank. And now Cletus, he wants another one. Hemophiliac is forced to back off already, but being chunked down to half health after just walking back in lane has got to hurt.
Yeah, I mean, once you kind of drop that one death to Gwen, it just makes that lane that much harder to sort of play out. You're going to now be dropping that all-important CS that we mentioned is actually going to increase your passive and make sure that, yes, you're not going to be an absolute team fight machine or split-pushing machine, I should say, as the Gwen, but you will be able to just do your job as a tank. But the lower CS that you have, the lower you've been able to actually survive and go even in lane, just makes sure that that Jinx passive is all the more scary if you actually do end up falling, because Sion's pretty much his only choice is to be in the front line for this Kog'Maw. That's his job, is to basically just be the bodyguard, right? Just to keep the Kog'Maw alive. But That's it. It's protect the president, but there's so much damage. There's so many DEFCON missiles flying towards this Scion that if he's not tanky enough, and as soon as Jinx gets that reset, I don't care how much Cogmore range he has. That move speed's just going to mean that it's absolutely nothing, and STARCASTERS will blow open the game. But so far, they're not too far away from doing just that. The gold lead's just increased with those cheeky solo kills we've seen up in the top lane and the bot lane priority. They haven't secured anything sort of objective-wise just yet, as we see Tempest on the Herald should secure that. But the first Dragon for JADE Dragons must feel really, really nice to just slow down the game just that little bit, right? You feel like you're under pressure when you lose the first two, you know? You're really fearful of that sole point. But if you don't have to be scared of that, it just allows you to just farm and chill. And I feel like that's all JADE Dragons want to do. Just a little bit of farm and chill.
Yeah, that's right. Look, I've learned it a lot as well, but I think we've been seeing a lot, especially in the LEC, which is running right now in their playoffs, is that a lot of people in solo queue struggle to give up dragons. Like, the knowledge that, okay, you know what, guys? We can give these first two dragons because it's going to give us the freedom to put our pressure somewhere else on the map. Whether that's taking turrets, farming, understanding that they're not at their power spikes while the other team is, allows them to not take fights that are going to wound them heavier than they already are. Because they say time heals all wounds. And look, if you're Jinx, it certainly doesn't. It just makes you stronger. And if you're playing up against a Scion, the same will happen. But being able to give up dragons as sensibly as we just saw there is a really, really important skill. Cletus, he wants to go Fuel in here. The needlework's already been popped. Hemophiliac's going to turn around with the charge, and now he has Daenerys to back him up. Daenerys wants to jump straight into this one, and it looks like it's going to be commit here. Cletus, he's fighting them both off right now. No mana. The Q coming down, the airborne Cletus. Can he get away? Right now, both of the jungler and the top laner at his heels. Tempest has come to back him up. How has he done so much damage? They're jumping on here onto Gragas, and Hemophiliac's just stuck inside the Cataclysm. That is disgusting.
Oh, God. I mean, I don't know why that... This is why if you take... I'm losing my words. Okay, so basically, JADE Dragons thought they had a decent fight, but then forgot about the keystone that Gragas chose to take this game in the Aftershock. You don't have any damage, my friend. There's no Dark Harvest proc for you. Crucially, the explosive cast actually missed onto Gwen because she was able to lay that W, right? Gwen is immune. Hashtag Gwen is immune. We all remember it. It's still a thing, you know? She may not be the crazy champ she once was, but she's still heckin' immune. So Daenerys, unfortunately, whiffers that, and... Look, like, Cletus got incredibly low. He was like 100 HP, maybe even less. If that explosive cask did hit, maybe they were able to get that kill. Maybe that changes some things, but their 2v2 is not something that lays down a lot of DPS, and so Gwen was able to stack up her Q, regen off that, and, I mean, it's just a complete disaster for JADE Dragons now. It's the last thing you want to see is this Gwen with an almost 30 CS lead. 2 kills up now as well. Nash is already completed. Only an item you'll see Gwen's build if they are incredibly ahead. I mean, we can even check the gold graph. Yeah, she's almost 2k up in front, Quicksand. Wowee, this Gwen's going to be a problem.
And I think it's important to point out as well, Gwen, 2-0. Tempest right now as well on that Jarvan, 3-1. I mean, Cletus pretty much has the avenue to just jump in every single time here and is chasing down Hemophiliac. Losing lane pressure like that as Scion is so bad. You can't farm, and not being able to farm not only puts you down in gold, but Sion's main other thing that he's really good at is getting lots of health. You can't kill minions, you can't scale at all, and it's really putting Sion behind. But as I was saying, kills stocked up across the board, and guess what? Tempest hasn't even used his side hustle yet, man. they picked it up, and he's about to make a whole lot of money if he uses this right.
He is indeed, and I wonder where he puts it actually. The obvious choice, I think, would be top lane. 2 plates left, whereas you've got 5 and 4 on the opposite ends of the map. Like, it's the closest thing to a first blood.
Here he is.
Not if they kill them 2v2.
Flash comes out now. Both the bot lanes from the side of JADE Dragons missing their flash. That's all that's going to pay off, but that is certainly a hefty price to pay for a gank.
Yeah, no, so both flashes down is so important in this lane because it means they just can't be as aggressive as they actually would like. And you see them actually winning this 2v2 when they do have their abilities up, but crucial, the Cogmore W and also the melee to increase, you know, that attack range and to actually make it so Jinx can't respond. But dropping plates, dropping flashes as well, they're even at risk of a dive. I mean, they do have vision of this, so it's up to STARCASTERS if they do want to take it. But so far, I mean, JADE Dragons are just bleeding, aren't they? And they've got to find a way to stop the bleeding because it's only going to get worse.
And look at that. Cletus he's on the top tower, just snipping away, man. It's like he's giving the tower a haircut. And there's nothing that Hemo can do. It's ridiculous. The damage isn't there. The resistance isn't there. And now Daenerys. almost had a really unfortunate encounter there, but Jarvan not having his Cataclysm up means that, and Daenerys does have a way to escape it, but now our bot lane duo are walking up. They're having a lot of confidence for a duo that doesn't have Flash, and we're going to see it get punished here. Referee barely getting away. Luckily, they had their jungler there to support them. The explosive cast comes out, and Dark, he might just go down here. Oh, Wild Growth perfectly placed as Jinx barely gets away. Syndra there to back her up as well.
Jeez, incredibly close from the STARCASTers, actually. Didn't decide to sort of look after their tempo and instead wanted to continue towards a bot play. But when you do that, it's so obvious for Jade Dragons and how to respond. And so a really, really decent answer, actually burning the Flash and the Overgrowth coming out from Lulu. Both really, really crucial spells. And they want to translate into their Dragon. I don't hate it, but TP's coming in.
And STARCASTers, they didn't pick up the first dragon. Like I said, you have to know when to give it away. And STARCASTers certainly made the right decision there. Look, this second dragon is uncontested. Like, they cannot contest the Jade Dragons. So STARCASTers get to pick up this Mountain Drake, walk away. It is going to be a Cloud Rift, meaning everyone gets to run just a little bit faster. So Syndra and Vladimir have all of a sudden become a whole lot more scary, and anyone else who can gank. Our junglers and our mid laners have both become more central.
Oh no, Quicksand, I don't think Sion knows. He's overstayed for this turret. Maybe he'll even
watch out, man!
For it. Hey, help! Someone help him. Oh, yes, he will take it with his passive.
Yeah, he'll get the respawn up, and look,
first turret.
450 gold, mate. Whew. I gotta say, that's a nice amount of gold to put in your pocket for that one.
It's interesting, right? Like, I guess it's fine, but also not really, because now that you're dead, yes, you've got TP, but you've already been losing this lane really hard. That means Cletus can answer. So what usually would look like a 1-for-1, you know, Sion gets his kill, if you will, by securing the first turret. Cletus just gets himself another 300 gold on top of the kill he secured from Sion. So all you're doing is making a very strong Gwen even stronger. Regardless though, yes, it's gold, but not onto someone important. I think Cletus is so much more crucial when it comes to the DPS that STARCASTers will put out in fights, whereas Sion's job is very simple, and whether he got that first turret or not doesn't really change anything. No flashes on the bot lane though. Can Tempest look for something? Or is it
I think so. They managed to kill the tower, and it looks like Cletus has gone to Foodworks and managed to secure a 2-for-1 there.
Yeah,
though the bot lane may have just gotten a special offer instead here, maybe 20% off. 2 bot laners away for that tower as well. That's another kill secured, and towers are worth so much gold. I think kills are valued so highly, and when the funny number on the left of your scoreboard goes up, you know, you feel a little bit happy, but it doesn't represent the total gold count at all. Though kills do help you build up money. Look, CS, taking towers, taking objectives. A really good way to have a perspective on this is everything converts to stats. That's something, again, more information I've shown in my head. So no matter what gold you have and what objectives you have, all of it is going to turn to stats in the end. And what matters is who has the most stats. It looks like Jade Dragons here want to capture the Rift Herald, but now that they've lost Prio on that dragon earlier, it's going to be way hard for them to hold on to Prio for objectives. Gragas is going to be able to take this one away. Sion has the Rift Herald in his pocket, and Cletus is going to chase him down. Looks like that it's a unstoppable onslaught is Sion's, right? I think that's his ult.
Yes, indeed, yeah. And so he uses that to get himself out, but unfortunately his Gragas will fall, and it's just really, it sucks to see. And yeah, top lane jungle, it's not the biggest amount of agency in games later on, because you're still going to be able to be a tank. It's just going to be that much more difficult to actually burn down the Gwen. The question on my mind is, who's actually going to kill Gwen in these fights? Because if she just presses W and becomes immune, then how does Worgen, which is pretty much their only DPS in their comp, ever actually touch the one carry that's melting everyone else? I think this is a really strong point of contention for Jade Dragons that they'll need to consider coming into this game. I mean, 177 CS, 10 CS a minute on this Gwen as well. Like, she is incredibly strong, and we can see even just short trades like that are a quarter of a health bar at this stage. So really easy for Jade Dragons to just play around topside right now. Jinx, Lulu, you know, securing their first items. Lulu will be incredibly close to getting that Moonstone Renewer, I imagine, will be that what we'll pick up, I think, basing for it just now. So items are coming in clutch at the moment, but someone that Cletus may need to be careful of is the Vlad. Hold on.
Doesn't have W up, in the swept off the screen.
Yeah. So if he did have that pull up, maybe, just maybe there was a chance, but cooldowns are... They're a brutal beast in this game, aren't they, Quicksand? And so she will fall, and I mean, it's just another kill over the Cletus, putting on a bit of a clinic on this Gwen right now. It's exactly what you want to see. Hard pushing the side lane, winning your 1v1, getting fed, going towards the jungle, translating leads there. I mean, we saw Gwen even stole Gragas's blue buff, so just insult to injury that these ganks that Gragas has looked for, to give credit to him, just haven't really paid off. I mean, the only times he's really shown bot, there hasn't really been a 1-for-1. it's kind of just been, okay, you guys are scared, now back off now. And it's just not what you want. Like, when you're this far behind, you need to be securing gold advantages, not just denying them from the opposite end.
Look, I would pay $20 to go to a Cletus Gwen workshop. Look, he's been putting on such a show that it's hard not to admire his Gwen. Picking up his second item as well, he is dripped out. Sheesh.
He is dripped out.
If we're running these guys through the Melbourne Fashion Week and we're doing a quick drip check, look, Gragas may have some questionable drip on him right now. Is Radiant Virtue something you want to build on a Gragas?
No. There you go. No, it's not. Sorry. I could give you a sentence, but it's just no. No, it's not. There's so many things wrong with what I'm seeing when I press tab, but regardless, it's something that Jade Dragons can't even consider right now. This is what you've got, right? It's like Christmas. You get a pair of jocks and socks that you've already got, or maybe they've been rehanded to you. My cousin actually once got a lunchbox that didn't even work. It was actually a medicine, like, you know those like things like those travel bags that you like take like your toothbrush and stuff in? He got given that and got told it was a lunchbox, but because it was so small and meant for toiletries, that like he was like, well, I can't even fit a sandwich in here. Like what? The worst Christmas present I can imagine is that, right? And my point is, sometimes you just get what you get. And right now, Jade Dragons with their jungler, they've got what they've got. As we see another all-in, it's probably most likely HP, or maybe to Dark.
Unstoppable onslaught bumps Cletus up, and it looks like the flash might be enough. Cletus, he can't survive the tower, and a shutdown and a really well-placed flash from Hemophile pays off.
Oh my god.
We take a look over here to the bottom river. Tempest already on the run. It's going to be a 4v4. Those Jinx Chompers will cause a disengage between the two parties.
Oh gosh, well just before this fight starts, and I believe there will be one, how well played from Sion. Like, clap towards him as decent poke lands. It's going to make it harder for Jade Dragons to contest this now, though, Quicksand. They are respecting, though, walking back into their jungle. That's the position that they want to hold. Jade Dragons actually deciding to DPS this. This will be interesting. Oh, great stun. Is that enough?
Oh my god. Easy Life just knocking them back, stunning them again and again. The Cataclysm denying any movement here towards the dragon. Easy Life now in a little bit too deep. And Hemophiliac, who's just had a chance to pick up more items, can turn this fight around. Dark, can he find pace to get away? Tempest unable to help him out. Dark does stay around though. I don't know why, as a triple kill has now dropped into Kasumi's hands, getting chased down by Cletus here, the most dangerous man on the Rift right now. And the needlework shows why he's so dangerous. Double kill comes out, and he has a chance to get his revenge on the Scion.
Wow, technically an ace. If we weren't so early in the game, people have actually respawned by the time that they died. So technically an ace for STARCASTERS. Wow, I mean, really, Cletus and Tempest coming together there to make what was actually a really botched team fight from STARCASTERS. Like, yes, they have won it, but it did not look good. Multiple different individual errors, team play errors. I mean, it's hard to break down, but I think the biggest point was that they were using Syndra Scatter the Weak to kind of like as poke, and it's really just a trigger for Tempest to all in. I mean, you've knocked back both Worgen and Requiem, like just jump on their heads, but decided to play it, I think, too passively, which actually allowed Kasumi to get in there with the Hemoplague and his Ghost. He jumps exactly on the backline, which is something that we talked about as well. Able to one-shot both of them. Dark, of course, his individual error of just walking back in when he was indeed out. Bit unfortunate there to drop one more kill. So far, this game's actually a little bit closer. This gold lead, yes, it is still substantial. It's definitely not absolutely out of the realm of possibility for a comeback. Hold on.
Okay, two most fed members decide to have a little bit of a competition. And that's the other thing we need to point out, Casual, is that Kasumi has managed to get just a few kills in his pocket. As you mentioned earlier, one of the biggest problems faced by the Jade Dragons is the fact that Gwen can just go bloop, and then Worgen all of a sudden is completely useless on the Kog'Maw because he can't hit her, especially seeing she's the strongest player for the side of STARCASTERS. Now, Vlad, on the other hand, he has a bit more sustain, does a little bit more damage, though it's not as consistent and as long range as what Worgen can provide. Look, Kasumi picking up those kills has added a really different win con and a different angle to the game here for Jade Dragons.
Oh, big time. And I think if you are the Jade Dragons, you want to be considering why that fight worked for you. And it's because it lasted so long. They were able to stall out for the Vladimir and allow him to, exactly like you said, sustain in these fights, find his way onto the backline, dip, dark, and dodge. Hemophiliac, despite being sort of nutted on 1v1, has actually done a really decent job of just being a tank. Do you know what I mean? Like, he just did his job there. So hopefully we get to see more of that. And Jade Dragons right now, the hardest thing sometimes you can do is not really play the game, but recognize how you need to play it. So So time will only tell when that next team fight comes in. We're only a few minutes away from that next Drake. It's not an all-important soul, but yeah, it would be nice. I mean, it stacks really nicely, the Cloud Soul onto the Jinx, doesn't it? Like, it is really, really good to be able to kite just that much more. But so far, so good for STARCASTERS. They've got a really clear win con in this Gwen. The only thing I'm maybe a little bit worried about is where the kills are. They're all on Gwen. Like, if Cletus actually does end up falling, this fight could go pretty pear-shaped for STARCASTERS. So, fine to have a really strong carry, but it's really clear for JADE Dragons then about who they need to target in fights. And if they're able to pull it off, I don't know, maybe Worgen can get something done on this pick that they've definitely drafted towards.
With Kasumi being ahead as well, look, 4 kills does make him the center of the team once again, but it certainly still is a lot more spread out. Tempest may have a couple kills on his belt, but with the recent 13.8 patches coming through, Jarvan's 80 scaling has been, I'd say, pretty significantly reduced. Actually wrote it down here. His 80 growth went from 3.4 to 3. Now, when it's growing to level 18, it's actually got a natural drop-off. As Cletus now on the front lines, maybe this is their chance to take her out early. There's the Cataclysm coming out. Kasumi can't get away. The pull comes out, and he's making a break for it. Recre on his tail, and down goes Pogmore. A double kill in the hand of Tempest. And now we have 2 carries to go. Dark's Rockets as well, just an absolute weapon.
Yeah, big time. An absolute weapon indeed is this Jinx. And with that Ghost as well, just able to sit so safely in the backline. I mean, was so safe that Lulu was able to just ult the Gwen with no issues. No worry about my Jinx being jumped on. And the reason is because cooldowns exist, Quicksand. Vlad didn't have his utility to be able to get onto the backline like last fight. No flash, no Ghost. He wasn't able to really use anything that was able to secure those kills that he was able to find in that team fight that was pseudo close for JADE Dragons. So understanding that the win con for blue side wasn't there, STARCASTERS pick up a really nice fight, and it just starts from being able to be really, really certain about where they needed to go. They jumped straight back onto the Baron, knew that they had no vision, knew that they were pretty much safe to do whatever they wanted. Take it. If they choose to take the fight, which they did, then you're funneling into a choke with Gwen, man. I mean, my grandma could be able to land every single part of needlework when they're all lined up in single file. Like, it's just a terrible place to be. Hold on, here's the exact thing that I'm about to point out. Except this time, Melio's move speed will keep her alive. But it's just bad to worse.
Keyboard over to your grandma there, casual.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, rest in peace. She would be. I would be. It would change my whole like life's perspective if that was true. I mean, I would love it personally. You know, I miss her. Oh, hold on, engage.
Okay, Daenerys now jumped in the middle of the pack. And as you can see there, Cletus, look, mate, he can make more space than an astronaut. He just dives in and rips the team apart. It's so effective as Cletus just gets to sit on the turret while facing up against Vlad, gives the turret a haircut, and Vlad is next. He asked for a little off the top, and maybe Cletus took off a bit more than that. With Siege coming down in the mid lane as well, 5 to 16 on the kill count, and 10,000 gold in deficit. That means that STARCASTERS may just be able to walk straight through the rift here. As Daenerys now gets taken down, Dark from range means that she can deal as much damage as she wants. Redimus still has wild growth as well. By no means are their cooldowns out, and by no means are they out of this fight. They just have to let their little cannon minion poke from kind of far away while they wait for the next wave. Which just arrived! And now they get a chance to swoop under the turret here, even though Worgen has that range boost now coming from Recre. They're going to shatter down the first turret. Kasumi staying maybe up a bit too far. The Cataclysm is a death sentence here for the ADCs. Recre goes down as well, and Kasumi forced to be all alone. Even though Hemophiliac may have respawned, he isn't tanky enough. He isn't strong enough to resist the face of Cletus with the Baron in their hand. They can just shatter these towers. They're like builders coming in for a demolition. I feel like I'm watching the Lego movie all over again. As Tempest flipping straight back in here on the fight. Dark though. Oh my god, the Hex Belt comes out. And now Vlad, his pull comes out, keeping him alive. Cletus jumps forward, does get the kill on the Vlad. They're missing damage here. There's Hemophiliac's gonna get cut down as well. It's just Daenerys. Oh my god.
It's just Daenerys, and what's he gonna do? He's no Dragon Queen anymore. He's just a guy who built the wrong items. 0-7 in this game. I mean, Gwen doesn't have... Oh, she doesn't immune. Alright, goodbye. It's over. Yeah, this game's done. I mean, really well played coming from STARCASTERS. We'll secure their first victory in this series. A lot to review for JADE Dragons as they'll be heading back and will be jumping back straight into the analyst test to break that one down. But Quicksand, what a game. What a game one.
Oh my god. Look, when you said Cletus was putting on a clinic, I didn't realize he was running a full-blown lecture.
Yeah,
Oh my
big time.
god. I was sitting in the
Yeah.
back of my uni hall. Look, I had my little notes written down about how impressive that was. Oh my god. Cletus
Yeah.
putting on such a workshop, being backed up by Tempest, who also successfully picked up a bunch of kills. I mean,
Yeah.
Wogan could not play the game.
Yeah, no, he couldn't at all. And I mean, what can you do when Gwen is so far ahead? I just hope that Jade Dragons don't just go, oh, Gwen got ahead, so we lost. Because it wasn't the only mistake in that game. We obviously pointed out a few crucial errors coming out from the jungler as well, but it was also just bot plays that were botched. I saw Worgen and Rekkry taking fights that they just didn't need to when their sums weren't up, which was really curious because they were taking really good trades when they did have those crucial abilities that actually allow them to gain those HP advantages. So not understanding what their lane actually needs to do, I felt like they were a bit pressured to fight Jinx and Lulu a lot more than they maybe should have. Like, they actually equaled the scaling coming out of Jinx Lulu. That's why the Cogmore and the Millie are so strong. Cogmore even buffed on this patch, so there was some sort of time pressure that I felt for Jade Dragons. I don't know about you, it felt like they just felt like they were under a time pressure, and that only got worse once Cletus got so far ahead. Ending that game only went for 28 minutes, but gets himself just under 50k damage. Like, he was crazy, right? Like, just absolutely going nuts. I mean, racking up the Hexstat for all of us as he put on that lecture. But Tempest, you can't ignore as well. Really, really strong on the Jarvan. He told me that he really loves the Jarvan because it allows him to be really proactive and it matches his style of being the team's main shot caller. So he wants a champion that can easily go in and actually start off these engages. And we saw that at the end as they went in for the base, right? Just easy. I'm going in, guys. Cataclysms both at the back line. Cletus jumps in and it's just over. They ended from there. So really, really strong from STARCASTERS. I like what they played for in their draft. Like, it's not enough to just pick champions quicksand. You got to play them in the right way. You got to focus the right lanes, and that's exactly what they did. So STARCASTERS with that momentum, can they secure a 2-0, or can Jade Dragons head back with their coach Jacko Vale, find out what went wrong, and bring us to potentially 3 games?
Well, the casual script that is ever so holy does describe 3 games to go towards. Then again, we will have to. Oh, hold on, he's going back to read it. Oh my god.
Yeah, 1 second. It's a small one. So I don't even know why, like, this is such a tiny script, Razy. What are you doing? Anyway, yeah, no. Yeah, Jade Dragons are going to win the next one. Yeah, okay. So we'll see how they do it. There's only one way to find out, Quicksand. Let's head off to a break.
That's right. We'll see you guys on the other side.
See you then.